Hey, what's up guys? It's Pete here from mixbetternow.com, and we are on video number 3 of my mix bus processing series. But for those of you just tuning in, please do me a favor. Please hit subscribe, please hit like, and please sign up for the email list. We have lots of free stuff for you, so please check it out. All right, video number 3. Last time we left off talking about quite a bit of EQing in my mix bus chain. The last thing we left off on was the Clariphonic that I have in, but here we are going to jump to my Pultec that I have in the chain. But as always, before I show you that, let me just play a little bit of this for you, and I'm going to bypass my whole mix bus in and out so you can hear what that sounds like. All right?
The year was 1968. The Beatles, Otis Redding, Gladys Knight. Another school in the Garden State. 2 was having their prom tonight. A girl named Anna, corner of the room. Dark hair, dress maroon. Strong girl, eldest of 4. Learned to clean and cook before playing sports. Daddy was a handyman and a war vet. Mother was a farm lady, an immigrant. French, Canadian, Italian roots. Homemade crepes, pasta fazool. To the hotel she took the stairs, noticing Steve and his corduroy pants. To the bathroom amongst their peers. What a pickup line, a bathtub full of beers.
Okay, very cool. So let's go ahead and jump right back in. Next up in my chain is my good old Pultec. This is an EQP1A from Universal Audio. It doesn't matter, again, which plugin you have, but this particular move is really only indigenous to Pultecs. Pultecs are very unique EQs because you can both boost and attenuate the same frequency on the low end and on the highs. You can boost anywhere from 3 to 16K, and then you can attenuate 5K, 10K, and 20K. Now, the reason that I really like using the Universal Audio or the UAD Pultec EQP1A is because of the overall tone that it imparts on my mix, even without doing any EQing. This is a similar plugin for me to the Slate VBC, where if I'm doing no compression on the VBC, or in this case if I'm doing no EQing on the Pultec, it imparts a very pleasant tonality to my overall mix. It adds some warmth, some punch, some fatness, some of that analog character that we all enjoy. So, but in this case I am doing EQing. And this is a really cool hack. I think I first saw Greg Wells doing this back in the day. And what was so crazy about this is, we all know that we can boost and attenuate it, but I've never seen anybody do it with 20 hertz before. But this one for me this has been a big game changer in a lot of my mixes. And what I am doing here is I have the frequency set to 20 hertz, and I'm boosting 4 dB, and I'm attenuating like 3.5 dB with a fairly wide bandwidth. Bandwidth is also your Q. And so it's kind of like I'm pushing and pulling at the same time at 20 hertz. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, why would you boost 20 hertz? Because 20 hertz is just going to be, subby, muddy kind of stuff. And, in theory, this doesn't really make sense, but it really sounds great. So I'm going to bypass this in and out and show you what it sounds like. But I also just wanted to make note that I am using 8K on the high end here. I am boosting 8K 2 dB, and then I'm attenuating 10K at 1 dB. Okay, so your attenuation on the high end is over here with the attenuation selection knob. You can pick 5, 10, and 20,000 kilohertz, and it just kind of does a really magic thing. So let me just play it for you, and I'll bypass it in and out. Here we go.
The year was 1968. The Beatles, Otis Redding, Gladys Knight. Another school in the Garden State. 2 was having their prom tonight. A girl named Anna, corner of the room. Dark hair, dress maroon. Strong girl, eldest of 4. Learned to clean and cook before playing sports. Daddy was a handyman and a war vet. Mother was a farm lady, an immigrant. French, Canadian, Italian roots. Homemade crepes, pasta fazool. To the hotel she took the stairs, noticing Steve and his corduroy pants.
Okay, good stuff. So for me, what I'm hearing there is by boosting and attenuating 20 hertz, I'm getting some really nice enhancement, on my kick drum, on my bass guitar, on my overall low end. It's adding some warmth, fatness and some punchiness. And then I'm getting a little bit of lift and a little bit of shine with the 2 dB at 8K and then the 1 dB of attenuation at 10K. But again, even if I wasn't doing any EQing, I would have this on here just to pass audio through it because I think it sounds great. So next up is my second compressor in the chain, and this is the last one. But now the reason I use two compressors is the first compressor, I use it in stereo to handle a lot of my large transient information like kick drum hits, snare drum hits, things like that. But this second compressor, and part of the reason that I'm particularly using this one is that I have it set to dual mono mode. Now, what dual mono mode means, or I think it's also called, I've seen it called, I can't think of the other one. But dual mono basically means it unlinks both sides of the compressor. Okay, so each side can act independently and compress independently from one another. Why am I doing this? The reason I'm doing this is so it keeps my stereo field a little bit wider. Like for example, if I have a really hard snare hit on the left side of my chain, because if you think about, a drum kit layout, you have your overheads and you have your snare drum mic. Most drummers are right-handed. So, if you get a really big snare hit, that's going to be towards the left-hand side. And so the left-hand side of the compressor is going to work a little bit harder than the right-hand side. And that's the idea. If I get a larger transient come through on the left is going to take care of it, and the right is going to kind of, remain untouched. And to me, it just sounds a little bit better, and it glues everything a little bit better, and it just makes the overall plugin, not work as hard, right? Because all of the plugins that I'm using on my chain here, the idea is I'm doing very subtle moves, but I'm doing, multiple subtle moves that add up throughout the whole mix bus. And, that's really how I mix, for the most part, is I'm not doing really any heavy lifting with any one thing. Parallel compression, that's a whole different story, but we'll get there in another video. But anyway, so I'm using the Shadow Hills mastering compressor, and I have it set to dual mono mode. Okay, I have the both of the optical compression sections turned off, so they're out. Okay, so I'm just using the discrete compressor. The discrete is the VCA part of the compressor. I have the transformer set to nickel. The attack is as slow as it can possibly go. So the attack is at 30 milliseconds. The release is set to 0.1 seconds. The ratio is a low 2-to-1. And all I'm really gunning for with this is to take off anywhere from 0 to like 1, maybe 1.5 dB on larger hits. Okay, this is where I get quite a bit of my glue. And I'm going to play a little bit of it for you, bypass it in and out so you can hear what it sounds like. And pay attention to the meters. Okay, look at what the needles are doing when it's compressing, because if I get something kind of pop up on the left-hand side that's a little bit more transient heavy, you'll see it working independent to that of the right-hand side. Okay, so here we go.
The year was 1968. The Beatles, Otis Redding, Gladys Knight. Another school in the Garden State. Two was having their prom tonight. A girl named Anna, corner of the room. Dark hair, dress maroon. Strong girl, eldest of 4. Learned to clean and cook before playing sports. Daddy was a handyman and a war vet. Mother was a farm lady, an immigrant. French, Canadian, Italian roots. Homemade crepes, pasta fazool. To the hotel she took the stairs, noticing Steve and his corduroy pants. To the bathroom amongst their peers. What a pickup line, a bathtub full of beers.
So it's not like a really drastic kind of sound here, but this is almost like my safety net in the whole chain. Okay. I do have my compressor, my SSL in the beginning of the chain, and then this is towards the end. And for any of those transients that get through that the SSL can't deal with, the Shadow Hills is taking care of that in dual mono mode, and each side is working independently from one another. If you don't have the Shadow Hills compressor, I know another plugin that you can use that allows you to unlink it is the Waves. It's the API 2500. I originally saw Bob Horn doing this in a tutorial of his, and it was absolutely fantastic, and it was totally eye-opening for me. And I've started implementing this in my mix bus, and I've really liked what it's done. So that is the Shadow Hills and the Last Compressor. Okay, next up, we're getting there. We are getting there. We have the we're going to 1/2-inch tape. This is the Slate Digital, the VTM. This is the virtual tape machine. And the idea with tape is, I personally like the way that analog things sound. And, when you send things to tape, you get certain characteristics that, that sound fantastic. Like you get like a natural kind of compression and a natural, literally tape saturation happening. It's not like a full-on distortion, but it's just a pleasing thing to the overall sound that I enjoy. On my mix bus, I like using the 1/2-inch tape setting as opposed to the 2-inch tape. I typically use 2-inch tape on the individual channels. I also use the Universal Audio Ampex ATR 102 on my mix bus here from time to time, but here I'm using the Slate Digital VTM. This is a fantastic plugin, really does sound like tape. I have it set to 15 IPS, and I'm on the FG456 setting. The reason I am not on the 30 IPS, which is what it defaults to, is because at 30 IPS, I find it lets a lot more low-end information come through, and I kind of wanted to rein a little bit of that in because with my Pultec doing the boost and cut at 20 Hertz, I'm getting a lot of low-end come through there. So the 50 IPS kind of works for me. I'm going to play it and bypass it in and out so you can hear what it sounds like. Here we go.
The year was 1968. The Beatles, Otis Redding, Gladys Knight. Another school in the Garden State. Two was having their prom tonight. A girl named Anna, corner of the room. Dark hair, dress maroon. Strong girl, eldest of 4. Learned to clean and cook before playing sports. Daddy was a handyman and a war vet. Mother was a farm lady, an immigrant. French, Canadian, Italian roots. Homemade crepes, pasta fazool. To the hotel she took the stairs, noticing Steve and his corduroy pants. To the bathroom amongst their peers. What a pickup line, a bathtub full of beers. I may be a blackbird.
Okay, so that sounds really good to me. I'm really enjoying what that's doing to my overall sound on my mix bus. Forgot to mention before I played it that I'm boosting 3 dB on the input, and then I am cutting 3 dB to level match. Your tape saturation and your tape overall compression is going to increase, the farther your needle gets up the meter here. If you're going to hover around unity, if you're going to push it into the red, you're going to get a little bit of that crunchier kind of thing. So, here I didn't want the needle not really moving a lot, but I wanted to get some of that tape sound that it does, in fact, impart. Okay, that is the end of part 3. Appreciate you guys hanging in there. We're almost there. We got one more video to go. So please check out the next one, and I'll see you guys over there. Thanks.